First story. 8 years ago, I cheated on my husband and abandoned my 3 kids to be with my affair partner. Now he dumped me for a younger girl, and, realizing my mistake, I pushed myself to see my kids and husband. But my entitled husband kicked me out of the house, not even letting me see my kids. Then I met them behind his back, but my son didn't even recognize me, and 2 others resent me due to their father's manipulations. I've been scrolling through this subreddit for weeks, reading stories of people reconnecting with their families and getting second chances. And honestly, I don't know if I deserve one. But I'm here because I need advice. Maybe even validation. I'm not sure. 8 years ago, I walked out on my husband and 3 kids. I left them for a man who promised me the world. I know how SHTTY that sounds, but at the time, I thought I was trapped in a dead-end life. I convinced myself I wasn't abandoning them. I was just taking control of my happiness for once. When I met Nathan, my ex-boyfriend, I was in a bad place mentally. I'd spent years being the perfect wife and mom, cooking, cleaning, and working part-time to make ends meet. My husband, Jack, was a good guy, but he wasn't exciting. He wasn't ambitious. He was content with our little suburban life, and I hated it. Nathan was everything Jack wasn't. He was rich, charming, and made me feel alive again. So, when he said, "Come with me, let me take care of you," I packed a bag and didn't look back. I didn't even tell the kids goodbye. It's disgusting to admit now, but at the time, I thought they'd be fine. Jack was a great dad, and I figured he'd step up and fill in the gaps I left behind. I told myself they'd understand one day. I even convinced myself I was doing them a favor by leaving. For years, I lived the life I thought I deserved: luxury vacations, designer clothes, dinners at 5-star restaurants. I told myself I wasn't a bad person. I was just doing what made me happy. But deep down, I knew I'd left a trail of destruction behind me. Every time someone mentioned their kids, I felt a pang of guilt. Every Christmas and birthday, I thought about calling, but I never did. When Jack filed for divorce, I didn't fight him. I was too wrapped up in my new life to care about the paperwork. I didn't even show up to most of the court dates. Jack got full custody of the kids and kept the house. I didn't ask for anything, not because I was noble, but because I didn't want the hassle. Nathan was paying for everything, so I figured I didn't need whatever scraps Jack and I had built together. The court ordered me to pay child support, but I ignored it. I didn't have a stable income, and Nathan covered all my expenses. Jack must have decided it wasn't worth the fight because he never came after me for the money. Looking back, I realized that's just one more burden I dumped on him. Then it all fell apart. Nathan dumped me for someone younger. He moved on without a second thought, and I was left with nothing. No money, no job, no friends. And when I say nothing, I mean it. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch and working part-time at a coffee shop just to get by. I know I'm the villain in this story, but I swear, I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. Or at least I told myself I was. Now I'm standing here with nothing, and all I can think about is what I threw away. My kids are teenagers now, practically adults, and they've grown up without me. 2 weeks ago, I showed up at Jack's house. I'd been rehearsing what I'd say for days. How sorry I was, how I'd been manipulated, how I wanted to make things right. But the second he opened the door, I froze. Jack looked older, tired. There were bags under his eyes, and his hair was streaked with gray. "He didn't invite me in," I said. "I'm here to see my kids." He just stared at me for what felt like forever. Then he said, "They don't want to see you." That hit harder than I expected. I knew they'd be angry, but I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd miss me enough to at least hear me out. I started to argue, but Jack cut me off. "They're old enough to make their own decisions, and they've decided they don't want you in their lives." Honestly, I don't blame them. I begged him to let me talk to them, but he wouldn't budge. He said I'd done enough damage, and the last thing they needed was me waltzing back in and stirring up more drama. Then he shut the door in my face. I've tried reaching out since then: emails, texts, even a letter, but they're ignoring me. My daughter blocked me on social media. My middle son hasn't replied to a single message. My youngest, who was only 4 when I left, didn't even remember me. I don't know what to do. I keep telling myself I was manipulated by Nathan, that I wouldn't have left if he hadn't convinced me I was missing out on some dream life. But I know that's a cop-out. I made the choice to leave. I chose to walk away from my family. Still, is it really fair for them to shut me out completely? People make mistakes. I was selfish, yes, but I'm trying to fix it now. Doesn't that count for something? Jack won't even talk to me, unless it's to tell me to back off. He says the kids are in therapy because of me, that they're finally starting to heal, and he doesn't want me undoing all that progress. I get that he's angry, I get it. But at some point, doesn't forgiveness have to come into play? I guess what I'm asking is, how do I make them see I'm not the same person I was back then? How do I get them to give me a chance? Or am I just wasting my time? Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. I've been reading through the comments, and a lot of you are saying I'm being selfish and entitled for expecting my kids to forgive me. I hear you. I know I can't just waltz back into their lives and expect everything to be okay overnight. But isn't it worth trying? To those saying I should focus on myself first, you're probably right. I've started therapy and I'm trying to work through the choices I've made. But it's hard to shake the feeling that I'm running out of time. My kids are almost grown, and I'm terrified that if I don't fix things now, I'll lose them forever. If you've been through something similar on either side, I'd really appreciate hearing your story. I know I have a lot to make up for, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I just need to know where to start. Comments. You fit up, single dad. You chose to abandon your kids for a rich arsehole, and now that you've got nothing, you suddenly want back in. F that. You didn't just make a mistake, you destroyed their lives. Your husband had to pick up your slack while you played dress up in your sugar daddy's mansion. You think your kids owe you a second chance? They owe you nothing. Therapy isn't going to erase the years they spent wondering why their mom didn't give a SHT about them. You abandoned them. You didn't call, didn't write, didn't even pay child support. You're not some tragic victim, you're just pissed off because karma finally came for your entitled arse. You were bitter. Doesn't forgiveness have to come into play? No, it effing doesn't. Forgiveness isn't a goddamn participation trophy for showing up after 8 years of silence. Your ex-husband busted his arse raising those kids while you played trophy wife. You didn't even fight for custody or visitation, which tells me you didn't give a single F about them until it suited you. Let me be crystal clear. You don't get to demand forgiveness. You walked out and stayed gone. Now you're broke and alone, and you're hoping your kids will fix the mess you made of your life. Spoiler alert, they won't. You were a SHTTY mom then, and judging by this post, you're still a SHTTY person now. You did umthage. Wow. The audacity of this post. You left your effing kids. You didn't take control of your happiness. You bailed because you thought you could upgrade your life without them dragging you down. Now you're broke, and suddenly you remember you're a mother. Give me a effing break. Do you have any idea how much therapy it takes to undo the damage you caused? You want a second chance? Too bad. Life doesn't work that way. Your kids don't owe you SHT. In fact, they're better off without you. The best thing you can do now is stay the hell out of their lives and let them heal. Update. I wasn't expecting my last post to blow up the way it did. Reading through the comments was brutal, but I told myself I needed to hear it. Honestly, I didn't realize how much anger people would have towards someone like me. I thought maybe a few people would say, yeah, you made a mistake, but you can fix it. That's not what I got. Instead, most of you told me to stay the hell away from my kids. Some of you even said I'm worse than trash and that I deserve to be miserable forever. It hurt, but I can't stop thinking about what a few people said. That I need to stop focusing on my feelings and think about the damage I caused. I've been trying to take that to heart, but at the same time, I don't want to give up. These are my kids. I can't just disappear again and pretend they don't exist. I've already done that once, and look where it got me. After Jack shut the door in my face, I didn't know what to do. I thought about showing up at their schools or trying to find them in public, but I knew that would make me look crazy. So I sat down and wrote a letter. It wasn't perfect. I didn't really know what to say. How do you apologize for abandoning your family? How do you put into words how much you regret every decision that led you here? I told them I was sorry for leaving, that I never stopped loving them, and that I wanted to make things right. I admitted I'd been selfish and made excuses for years, but I was ready to own up to my mistakes. I mailed the letter to Jack's house, knowing it would probably piss him off. He made it clear he didn't want me contacting them. But I figured a letter was the least intrusive way to reach out. I don't know exactly what happened after they got the letter. Jack didn't call or email me, so I can only guess based on what happened next. My oldest, my daughter, sent a reply. It wasn't what I hoped for. She didn't mince words, telling me how much I'd hurt her and how she didn't believe a single thing I wrote. She said I was only coming back because I had nothing else, and she was right. She didn't need me now, and she didn't want me to mess up the life they'd built without me. My middle child, my 16-year-old son, didn't say anything. No text, no email, no response at all. That silence cut deep. He was my little buddy when he was younger, always following me around the house. And now he couldn't even acknowledge me. My youngest son was the one who surprised me. Jack told me later through a furious email that my letter made the youngest ask questions about me. He wanted to know why I left, what kind of person I was, and if I'd ever really loved them. Jack was furious that I'd stirred up those emotions after years of therapy and progress. He made it clear I'd crossed a line and said he'd take legal action if I didn't stop. Reading Jack's email felt like a punch to the gut. He didn't hold back. He told me in no uncertain terms that I wasn't welcome in their lives. He said the kids had worked too hard to heal from what I did, and my sudden reappearance was setting them back. He accused me of being selfish and putting my feelings above theirs again. He said if I kept pushing, he'd file for a restraining order. That one stung. The idea that my ex-husband would go to court just to keep me away from my own children was almost too much to process. But even after reading his email, I couldn't let go of the youngest asking questions. He was curious, wasn't he? That had to mean something. I've been thinking a lot about what people said on my last post. A lot of you told me I need therapy, and I think you're right. I can't undo the past, but maybe I can work on myself enough to prove to my kids that I've changed. Maybe if I show them I'm serious, they'll give me another chance someday. I don't know how to move forward from here. Jack's made it clear that if I keep pushing, it'll only make things worse. But isn't it worth trying? Shouldn't I fight for my kids, even if they hate me right now? If anyone's been in a situation like this, whether you're the parent who messed up or the kid who got hurt, I'd really appreciate hearing your story. Right now, I feel like I'm walking a tightrope, and one wrong move could destroy any chance I have of rebuilding a relationship with them. Second story. Cheating ex-husband, who neglected my daughter for his stepdaughter and new wife, demands I invite his stepdaughter to my daughter's birthday trip, threatening not to come to the trip. Now his marriage imploded, his new wife and stepdaughter coming to the party. The whole family hates my ex, and he is getting divorced after he physically assaulted his new wife. Long-time lurker here. I have never thought I would have to post a Reddit post about this. But my family is divided, and I need to know whether or not I am being unreasonable. Throwaway for privacy reasons. For the last few months, I, 32F, have been planning my daughter's Rose, fake name 13th birthday. For her birthday, I have been planning a week-long trip to Greece. Rose has been obsessed with Greece for the longest time and has been begging to go there forever. And now I have finally saved up enough to give her a special birthday. The problem, however, is with my ex Alex. Ever since I started planning the trip, he has been pushing for me to invite his stepdaughter Mary. For some context, Alex and I broke up a few years after Rose was born due to cheating during the pregnancy. We lost touch for a year or two before he came back asking to be in Rose's life. I agreed to co-parent with him, and things were going well, all things considered. That is until he got married to his new wife, Sarah, who already had Mary from a previous relationship. Sarah and I get along really well, and so do Mary and Rose. The issue is not with his new family, but with Alex. Ever since he got married to Sarah, all his attention has gone to Mary. At first, I understood. He needed her to get comfortable with him being her new dad. But it has reached the point where he barely even puts in any effort with Rose. He has missed several of her important competitions and events, as well as her birthday, just because he had to take Mary to the dentist. Or Mary needed someone to pick her up from school. Or he wanted to take Mary to the movies. All are excuses he has actually used when I confronted him about his absence in his daughter's life. I should clarify that I have no issues with Mary. I love the kid. But my issue is with Alex acting like she is his only daughter. I have talked to him about this several times, and he always uses the excuse that Mary needs a dad too. Before telling me to stop acting selfish and to appreciate he was in Rose's life at all. While planning for the birthday, I didn't invite Mary and Sarah deliberately so he could spend time with Rose on the trip. I did ask them beforehand if they were okay with it. Mary doesn't like traveling anyway, so they both agreed to not come. Alex, on the other hand, has been refusing to accept this and kept pushing for me to invite her anyway, saying it will be good for the girls to hang out. I have been refusing to budge, and it all came to a head last week when I asked Alex to confirm the dates, and he said he wasn't coming unless I invited Mary. I obviously said no, but he didn't back down. I finally had enough and told him that if he wouldn't come unless Mary came, then he shouldn't bother coming at all. He tried to argue, but I haven't spoken to him since then. He has been blowing up my phone, but I honestly don't have the energy to deal with him. Some of my friends have been calling me, asking why I uninvited him, and saying I was acting like a bee. My mom agrees he was being unreasonable, but also said I was being cruel by kicking him from the trip entirely. My sister, however, agrees that he shouldn't come at all. I was very sure of my decision before, but now I am starting to think I overreacted. I don't want Rose to think he doesn't care enough to come at all, but if I agree, he will spend the entire trip with Mary. I know he will because he has done it before, and I don't think that is much better for Rose. Everyone is divided, and I need to be sure whether or not I am overreacting. Am I being the jerk here? Edit. I was not expecting so many comments. I didn't expect this to get as much traction as it did, and I am having some trouble answering them all, and I won't be online for long. So I hope this answers your questions. The first I am seeing is that my ex is Mary's dad. That wouldn't be possible. I have met her father. She looks a lot like him too. Does my ex have bad intentions with Mary? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I think he thinks of her more like the daughter he has always wanted. They also share many interests. Are Mary and Sarah okay with all this? No. They have been trying to convince him to let it go, but my ex is very stubborn. I also asked them not to be involved so the drama would die on its own. Is this what Rose wants? She really wanted her father to come. She loves the man a lot, but I will ask her since it is her trip and her choice. Would she want Mary to come? Yes, Rose looks up to Mary, and the two get along. Even without my or Sarah's involvement, they are naturally friends. If you have any other questions, I will try and find the time to answer them. For now, thank you all for the support as well as the valuable advice and insights. I feel much less stressed about this. I will have a chat with Rose and update you all when I can. AITA has no consensus bot. OP was NTA with a few others. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Are you paying for him? And is he expecting you to pay for Mary too? Not that it matters, but I just wonder if he will try to show up with her, to be honest. He sounds like a real douche that would do something like that. If you now don't have to pay for him, why not invite your mom? Having 2 generations of strong women who won't put up with an arsey hole might be a great vacation for your daughter. OP. I am paying for everyone since it was my idea to go. My mom and sister were coming originally. I might just make it a girls' trip to avoid the drama. Why is OP's ex Rose's father going on the trip? OP. He had missed a few of her birthdays prior to this. I wanted to make it up to her. He is also her father, and it seemed unnecessary to exclude him. My mom and sister are coming as well, so it wasn't going to be just us 3. Commenter 2. I 100% agree with you. This trip is about his daughter, not his stepdaughter. Ignore everyone else. He's made you and Rose very aware of where she stands. I'd send him a message, then block him, TBH. Please stop getting other people involved. This trip is for your daughter, and the fact that you are yet again putting someone else above her is crazy. You are extremely selfish, and she will remember this for years to come. Now she is 13. I will leave it up to Rose whether she wants any contact with you going forward. OP. I might actually use this because I don't have the energy to articulate myself and even bother arguing with him. Thank you. Commenter 3. Why are you making so much effort for him? I've seen your comments on things you do to enable your child to have a relationship with him. All kids deserve parents, but not all parents deserve children. He's a deadbeat. If he wanted to, he would. But he didn't. He's a terrible father, and you definitely didn't overreact. Lose the man in the trash and friends who agree with him as well. NTA. OP. I guess I just really wanted my daughter to have a chance to know her father. I am starting to see now that it may have been a mistake thinking that he was the father she needed. OP should let her daughter, Rose, decide on what she wants. OP. She wants her father there because he had missed her last few birthdays. I just don't want her to go through her birthday feeling second to Mary, especially when they have a good relationship. But I think either way she wouldn't be too upset. Mostly because she is more glad to be going to her favorite place. But I will have a conversation with her and let her decide. Update. 4 weeks later. Hello again, Reddit. I wasn't planning on updating, but since we're heading to Greece tomorrow, Rose asked me to share an update for those who were interested. Here it is. I hope those curious about how things turned out are able to see this. A lot has happened since my last post, so I'll try my best to explain everything clearly. This might be long, so I'll start with a summary for anyone who doesn't want to read the full story. Sarah found out about Alex's cheating in our previous relationship, and after she hit her, they're getting a divorce. Mary and Sarah will be joining us on the birthday trip. I'm filing for a legal custody agreement and child support. Alex's insistence on bringing Mary to Greece was so he could one-up Sarah's ex-husband. Now, for those who want the full details. After my last post, I called Rose's therapist for advice on how to approach the situation. Following his advice, I sat down with Rose, explained everything, and even showed her the post. I reassured her repeatedly that none of this was her fault and apologized for making decisions without coming to her first. I told her to take her time processing everything and let her know I was ready to listen whenever she was. I am glad I did so because a few days later, Rose came to me with her thoughts. Giving her time to reflect really helped her articulate herself and think everything through. She decided not to invite her dad on the trip, but was against cutting him off completely. While I initially disagreed, I respected her decision and didn't push the matter. We discussed a lot of other things, but I'd prefer to keep those private. I also suggested family therapy, which she agreed to, and I've booked sessions for next year. She will still be going to individual therapy, and so will I. I hope that it will help us communicate better and also help me with making better decisions in the future as her mom. By the end of our talk, we shared a much-needed cry which, I admit, I initiated, hugs, and then watched AmITheA. Side note. To the commenter who suggested the movie. Thank you. Rose and I loved it so much we watched the sequel the same day. It was the perfect choice to get us excited for the trip. We are thinking of watching it again by the end of the trip as well. Now, onto the drama. I reached out to Sarah and invited her over to talk about Alex. I showed her the post, including the comments concerned about Alex's relationship with Mary. While I didn't share those concerns, I wanted Sarah to decide for herself. As she read the post, she got to the part where I mentioned Alex's cheating. She was confused and asked what I meant. I explained how, during my pregnancy, I discovered texts and pictures from other women on Alex's phone. When confronted, he admitted to cheating because he wasn't ready to be a dad. That was why we broke up, and he disappeared for a while before returning to be part of Rose's life. Sarah was furious. According to her, Alex had told her I cheated on him, and that's why he wasn't involved in Rose's early years. According to him, it was because he wasn't sure if she was his. Hearing this, I was livid. I've never been with anyone other than my ex, romantically or otherwise. Between raising Rose and building a career, I never had the time. Alex's lie didn't even serve a purpose since Sarah and I had always gotten along. After our conversation, Sarah assured me she was going to talk to Mary and confront Alex. A few days later, she called me while crying, asking if Mary could stay with me for a while. I checked with Rose, and she was fine with it, so I agreed. From what Sarah told me, she confronted Alex about the real reason we broke up. During their argument, Alex was furious, possibly drunk. It is unclear, and hit her. Sarah had a visible bruise on her face when I arrived. I was and am still shocked by this. Alex had never been violent during our relationship, and never even showed any signs of being violent. I am still having trouble believing it's true, which I feel really bad about considering how he left Sarah. A huge chunk of her face is swollen and bruised really badly. He didn't just hit her. He punched her really hard that she said she thought he knocked her out. Sarah doesn't have family nearby, and Mary's father is away due to his job as a pilot. So, Mary has been staying with us while Sarah handles the situation. After hearing about what happened, Rose invited both Mary and Sarah on the trip, which is incredibly kind of her. My sister canceled anyway since she couldn't secure a sitter and didn't want to travel with the baby yet until she is older. So it will be me, Rose, Sarah, Mary, and my mom. It was the same amount of people who were coming originally, so I didn't have to make new accommodations for them. As far as I know, Sarah hasn't made a report or anything yet, so Alex hasn't been arrested. As for why Alex wanted Mary to join the trip, his mom unintentionally told me everything. About a week ago, she called asking to see Rose before we left for the trip. I wasn't really keen on the idea, but I agreed as long as Alex wasn't there. During our visit, she rambled on about how Sarah's family made Alex feel unappreciated, how Mary didn't call him dad, and how Sarah's ex-husband was always showing him up. Basically going on a rant about her poor son, who everyone is against these days. You heard that right, folks. This idiot was doing all this not because he cared about either of the girls, but because he wanted to be better than Sarah's ex. I am honestly still freaking pissed when writing this. He ruined his relationship with our daughter and used Mary to make himself look better than Mary's dad. I don't want to believe that it is the case and that I am misunderstanding, but it is something Alex can and has done before. I even talked to Sarah about it, and she agreed this might be the case. Although it is just a speculation based on what his mom has told me. It is the most likely case, since Mary has denied him being inappropriate with her. I have cut off Alex, his mom, and told Rose we can revisit seeing him only after I have a legal custody agreement and child support. Both can take a long time, which I am grateful for. I am hoping it will give Rose some time to think more about her relationship with her dad. Sarah has filed for divorce, which I am helping with. She and Mary have been through a lot. Thinking about how this whole thing started, it feels so silly. It's been a mess, but that's the update. Thank you to everyone who supported and advised me. Your insights were greatly appreciated. We're looking forward to our trip, and I'll be focusing on giving Rose the special birthday she deserves. Top comments. Commenter 1. I never liked Alex since the first post, and now can't stand him even more. He's a horrible person, and I hope he loses everything. I'm glad you and everyone else are doing well, all things considered. Have a wonderful trip. Commenter 2. I'm glad you're there for Sarah and Mary. You're a good person. Commenter 3. Definitely not the arsehole. It's your daughter's birthday trip, not a family vacation. Plus, it's important for your daughter to have special one-on-one time with her father, without any distractions from step-siblings. Good on you for standing your ground. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.